The throbbing in Detective Maya Richardson's head arrived before consciousness did. Pain radiated from the base of her skull, sharp and insistent, dragging her from the dark void of unconsciousness into something worse, awareness. Her eyelids felt heavy, weighted down by exhaustion and whatever drug had been used to knock her out. When she finally managed to force them open, the world swam in unfocused shapes and muted colors. Silk, the first thing she registered, was silk against her skin. Cool, expensive fabric beneath her body. The second thing was the restraints. Maya's wrists were bound above her head, secured to something solid. She tugged experimentally, feeling the bite of soft fabric against her skin. Not rope, something softer, like silk ties, but just as effective. Her ankles were similarly bound, spread slightly apart, and tied to what she quickly realized were bedposts. Panic flared hot in her chest, but years of training kicked in immediately. Don't panic. Assess the situation, find the exits, identify the threat. The room came into focus gradually. Minimalist luxury surrounded her. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealing the Seoul skyline at night, modern furniture in blacks and grays, artwork that probably cost more than her annual salary. The bed beneath her was enormous, easily king-sized, with sheets that felt like water against her skin. Everything screamed money and power, and danger. "You're awake." The voice came from the shadows near the window. Accented English with perfect pronunciation, deep, measured, calm. Maya's head snapped toward the sound, her heart rate spiking despite her efforts to remain calm. He stepped into the light from the bedside lamp, and Maya's breath caught despite herself. She'd seen his photograph in the precinct files 100 times. Surveillance photos, grainy security footage, blurry shots taken from across the street. None of them had done him justice. Min Junho was tall for a Korean man, perhaps 6 feet, with broad shoulders filling out an expensive black suit. His face was all sharp angles, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, eyes so dark they looked black in the dim light. His hair was styled back from his face, revealing a scar that ran from his left temple to his cheekbone. He was young, maybe 32 or 33, and absolutely terrifying in his composed stillness. "You," Maya breathed, recognition and fury warring in her voice. "Me," he agreed, moving closer to the bed with the fluid grace of a predator. He pulled a chair from somewhere she couldn't see and sat down just out of her reach, leaning back with one ankle crossed over his knee. Everything about his posture spoke of control, of a man completely comfortable with the situation. Detective Maya Richardson, 28 years old, Chicago PD, now on assignment with the Seoul Metropolitan Police as part of the International Task Force targeting organized crime. 3 years on the force, impressive arrest record, reputation for being tenacious to the point of recklessness. Maya's jaw clenched. "You've done your homework." "I make it a point to know who's interfering with my business," Junho replied, his tone conversational, almost pleasant. "And you, detective, have been interfering quite persistently." "That's my job," Maya shot back, tugging at her restraints again. The silk held firm, and kidnapping a police officer is going to bring down so much heat on you. "No one knows you're here," Junho interrupted smoothly. "You came to that warehouse alone, without backup, without telling anyone where you were going. Reckless, as I mentioned. Your colleagues think you're following up on a lead in Itaewon. By the time they realize you're missing, You'll be back at your apartment with a terrible headache and no memory of how you got there. Maya's blood ran cold. He was right. She'd been following a tip about a weapons shipment, had thought she could do reconnaissance alone. Standard procedure said to call for backup. But she'd been so close to breaking this case, so desperate to prove herself to the Seoul PD, who looked at her like she was just a diversity hire from America. "What do you want?" she demanded, forcing steel into her voice. Junho studied her for a long moment, his dark eyes traveling over her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You'll stop messing with my business," he said finally, his voice dropping lower, more dangerous. "You'll go back to your superiors and tell them the lead was dead. You'll request a transfer back to Chicago or to another case. You'll forget about me and mine." "Like hell I will," Maya spat. Something flickered in Junho's eyes. Amusement, maybe, or respect. "I thought you might say that, which is why we're going to have a conversation, you and I. A frank discussion about the reality of your situation." "I don't have conversations with criminals." "You will tonight." Junho leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his face now level with hers. "Because you have a choice to make, detective. You can continue your crusade against me, waste your time and resources, and accomplish nothing. Or you can listen, understand the complexity of what you're dealing with, and choose a wiser path." "There's nothing complex about it," Maya retorted. "You run guns, drugs, and protection rackets. You're a gangster with a fancy suit." Junho's expression didn't change, but something hardened in his eyes. "Is that what you think? That I'm just another thug?" "Aren't you?" He stood abruptly, and Maya tensed. But he only walked to the window, staring out at the glittering city below. "I inherited this organization when I was 22 years old," he said, his voice quiet, but carrying clearly across the room. "My father was murdered by a rival gang. They burned down our restaurant with him inside it. My mother and sister watched it happen." Maya said nothing, watching his silhouette against the city lights. "The police did nothing," Junho continued. "They took statements, filed reports, and the case went nowhere. No arrests, no justice. Just another dead Korean businessman in a city that didn't care. So I took over what my father built, and I made sure no one would ever touch my family again." "So you became exactly what they were," Maya said. "That's your justification." Junho turned back to her, his expression unreadable. "I provide protection to businesses in neighborhoods the police ignore. I settle disputes before they turn violent. Yes, I profit from it, but I also ensure that Korean families can operate their businesses without being extorted by worse men than me." "Worse men you also fight with for territory," Maya countered. "I've seen the crime scene photos, Junho. The bodies in the Han River, the burned buildings, the civilians caught in the crossfire." He flinched just slightly at her use of his given name. "Every body in that river belonged to someone who chose this life. Every burned building was evacuated first. I don't target civilians. But they die anyway." "Yes," Junho admitted, returning to his chair. "They do, because this world, my world, is violent and dangerous. Which is exactly why you need to leave it alone." "I can't do that." "Why?" The question was sharp, almost frustrated. "Why can't you? What drives an American detective to fly across the world and insert herself into conflicts she doesn't understand in a city where she doesn't even speak the language fluently?" Maya glared at him, her jaw set. Because it's right. Because people like you don't get to just operate above the law because you have money and guns and power. People like me, Junho repeated, something bitter in his tone. Tell me, detective, what do you know about people like me? I know enough. Do you? He leaned forward again. Tell me about your father, Detective Richardson. The change in subject caught her off guard. What? Your father? Marcus Richardson, sergeant with the Chicago PD for 25 years before he was killed in the line of duty 5 years ago. Gunned down during a domestic disturbance call. That's why you became a cop, isn't it? Maya's throat tightened. Don't you dare. I'm not mocking you, Junho said quietly. I'm showing you that we're not so different. You and I, we both lost fathers to violence. We both chose paths that we thought would honor them, that would make meaning of their deaths. The difference is that you had the law on your side, and I didn't. The difference, Maya said through gritted teeth, is that I don't hurt people. Don't you? Junho challenged. How many people have you arrested who were just trying to survive? How many kids ended up in the system because you busted their parents for selling drugs to feed them? How many families did you tear apart in the name of justice? That's not the same thing. Isn't it? You follow orders, I give them. But we both operate in a world of violence and difficult choices. Maya shook her head, frustration and confusion warring inside her. You can't compare what I do to what you do. I work within the law. The law, Junho said, almost laughing. Written by people who have never struggled, enforced selectively, weaponized against the vulnerable. You really believe it's that simple? That you're purely good and I'm purely evil? I believe in right and wrong. So do I. We just disagree on where the line is. They stared at each other in tense silence. Maya's wrists ached from pulling at the restraints, and her head still throbbed from whatever they'd used to knock her out. But more than the physical discomfort, she felt something shifting in her chest, something uncomfortable and unwelcome. He was wrong. He had to be wrong. But the way he spoke, the conviction in his voice, the pain hidden behind his controlled exterior, it made him human in a way she hadn't allowed him to be. In her files, he was Min Junho, crime boss, target. Here, in this room, he was just a man who'd lost his father and tried to build something from the ashes. Why did you bring me here? Maya asked finally, her voice quieter. Why tie me to your bed and have this conversation? You could have just killed me. Because I don't want to kill you, Junho said simply. I've been watching you for weeks, detective. You're smart, dedicated, brave to the point of stupidity. You could be a real problem for me, but I also saw something else. What? You actually care. Not about the arrests or the glory or moving up the ranks. You care about the people caught in the middle. I've watched you stop to help an elderly woman with her groceries, give money to homeless kids, spend your own time counseling victims. You're not just another cop. You're someone who genuinely wants to make things better. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. You've been stalking me. I've been protecting my interests. But yes, I've noticed things about you. Like how you take your coffee with too much sugar. How you run along the Han River every morning at dawn. How you volunteer at the community center in Dongdaemun on your days off. That's creepy, not flattering. A ghost of a smile crossed Junho's face. I'm not trying to flatter you. I'm trying to make you understand that I know who you are. And you, detective, are not someone I want to destroy. Then let me go. I will, after you hear me out. Maya sighed, exhausted and overwhelmed. Fine, talk. Junho settled back in his chair, considering his words carefully. The weapons shipment you were tracking? It wasn't mine. Maya blinked. What? It belongs to the Huang gang. Northern Seoul, led by Huang Taimin. He's trying to expand into my territory, and he's not careful like I am. He doesn't care about civilian casualties. He recruits teenagers, gets them addicted to drugs, uses them as expendable soldiers. 3 months ago, there was a shooting at a high school in Gangnam. 2 students killed, 5 wounded. That was Huang's people. I remember that case, Maya said slowly. The suspects were never caught. Because they're dead, Junho said bluntly. I found them. I handled it. You killed them. Yes, and I'd do it again. Those boys murdered children. Maya's mind raced trying to process this information against everything she thought she knew. Why are you telling me this? Because Huang is your real target. He's trafficking guns to North Korea, running meth labs in residential neighborhoods, forcing young women into prostitution. Everything you hate about organized crime. Everything you came here to stop. That's Huang, not me. And I'm supposed to just take your word for it? Junho reached into his jacket pocket and Maya tensed, but he only pulled out a USB drive. He set it on the bedside table. That contains everything you need. Locations, names, shipping schedules, financial records, enough to bring down Huang's entire operation. Why? Maya demanded. Why would you give me that? Because Huang is bad for business. He's reckless, violent, draws too much police attention. Taking him down benefits me, yes, but it also protects a lot of innocent people. Isn't that what you want? I want to bring down all of you, Maya said. But there was less conviction in her voice now. That's not going to happen, Junho said matter-of-factly. You could spend your entire career trying to take down every gang in Seoul, and you'd barely make a dent. But you could focus on the worst offenders. You could actually save lives instead of tilting at windmills. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm trying to work with you. There's a difference. Maya closed her eyes, her head spinning with more than just the after effects of the drug. Everything felt upside down. This man, this criminal, was offering her the biggest bust of her career. But accepting it meant accepting his version of morality, his hierarchy of acceptable crime. I need time to think, she said finally. You have until morning, Junho replied, standing. I'll have food brought up. Try to rest. We'll talk more when you're clear-headed. You're leaving me tied up? For now, I don't trust you not to do something foolish if I let you go, like trying to arrest me in my own bedroom. You think I can't get free? That ghost of a smile returned. I think you'll try, but these knots were tied by someone with 20 years of naval experience. You won't get loose before morning. He moved toward the door, and Maya called out, Junho. He stopped, looking back at her. Your father? What was his name? Something softened in Junho's expression. Min Dae-jung. He made the best kimchi jjigae in Seoul. My mother still uses his recipe. I'm sorry, Maya said quietly. I'm sorry that happened to your family. Junho studied her for a long moment. And I'm sorry about your father. Marcus Richardson sounded like a good man. He left then, the door closing softly behind him. Maya lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had gotten so complicated. Hours passed. Maya did try to get free, twisting and pulling at the silk ties until her wrists were raw. Jun-ho had been right. Whoever tied these knots knew what they were doing. Eventually, exhausted and frustrated, she gave up. Someone brought food as promised. Bibimbap with all the banchan. Still warm, they also untied one of her hands, allowing her to eat, though her other hand remained secured. The food was delicious, which annoyed her more than it should have. She must have dozed off because she woke to find morning light streaming through the windows and Jun-ho sitting in the chair again, watching her. He'd changed clothes, now wearing black slacks and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal surprisingly muscular forearms. "Sleep well?" he asked. "Where do you get off asking that when you have me tied to your bed?" "Fair point." He stood, moving to the bedside. "I'm going to untie you now. I'd appreciate it if you didn't immediately try to arrest me or attack me. Can you agree to that?" Maya considered lying, but found she couldn't. "I won't attack you. I can't promise about the arrest." "Honest. I appreciate that." He began working on the knots at her wrists, his fingers deft and careful. His hands were warm against her skin, and Maya hated that she noticed. When her hands were free, she immediately rubbed her wrists, wincing at the soreness. Jun-ho frowned at the red marks there. "I'm sorry about that. I told them to make sure it wasn't too tight." "Maybe don't kidnap people, and you won't have to worry about it," Maya retorted. But there was less heat in her voice than before. He moved to her ankles, untying them with the same careful efficiency. When she was finally free, Maya sat up slowly, her body stiff from being in one position for so long. Jun-ho stepped back, giving her space. "There's a bathroom through that door," he said, gesturing. "Your clothes are cleaned and waiting for you. Take your time. I'll have breakfast prepared." "You're acting like this is a hotel." "It's my home. You're my guest, even if you arrived involuntarily." Maya slid off the bed, testing her legs. They held, though her head still ached dully. "I'm not your guest. I'm your prisoner." "Not anymore. You're free to leave any time you want. The USB drive is yours. Use it or don't. That's your choice." Maya stared at him, searching for the trap. "Just like that, you drug me, kidnap me, tie me up, tell me your whole sob story, and now I can just walk out?" "Yes." "Why?" Jun-ho moved to the window. That same contemplative pose from the night before. "Because I meant what I said. I don't want to destroy you, Detective Richardson. And I think, given time and information, you might see that the world isn't as black and white as you want it to be. I could take that USB and arrest you anyway. You could try, but you won't find anything connecting me to crimes you can prove. I'm very careful." He turned back to her. "And I don't think you will. I think you're going to go after Huang instead, because that's what the right thing to do is." Maya wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong about her, but she found she couldn't. Because deep down, she knew he was right. Huang was the bigger threat, the more dangerous criminal, if she had to choose, if she had limited resources and time. "I hate this," she said quietly. "I know." His voice was surprisingly gentle. "I'm not asking you to like it. I'm asking you to be pragmatic. I became a cop to make a difference, to help people. You still can. You just have to choose which battles are worth fighting." Maya walked to the bathroom without another word. She needed time to think, to process everything. The bathroom was as luxurious as the bedroom, marble everywhere. A shower that could fit 6 people, towels softer than clouds. Her clothes were indeed cleaned and folded neatly on the counter. Even her underwear, which felt weirdly intimate. She showered quickly, scrubbing off the feeling of captivity, trying to wash away the confusion and doubt. When she emerged 20 minutes later, dressed and slightly more clear-headed, she found Junho in what appeared to be a dining room. A full Korean breakfast was laid out: rice, soup, grilled fish, more banchan than she could count. "I didn't know what you liked," Junho said, pouring tea, "so I had them prepare everything." "Them?" "My staff. This floor of the building is private, but I have people who work for me." "How many? People in the building or people in my organization?" "Both." Junho sat down, gesturing for her to do the same. 20 people work in this building, maybe 200 in my organization total, though only about 50 are directly involved in anything illegal. The rest are legitimate business people who don't know or don't ask questions about where the money comes from. Maya sat, her stomach growling, despite her conflicted feelings. "You're being very forthcoming. I told you. I want you to understand. And I don't think you'll use this information against me. At least not right now." They ate in silence for a while. The food was excellent, and Maya found herself relaxing, despite everything. Junho was a good host, attentive without being overbearing, filling her tea before she had to ask. "Tell me about Huang," Maya said finally. Junho set down his chopsticks. Huang Tae-min, 43 years old, started as muscle for one of the northern gangs, worked his way up through sheer brutality. He took over 5 years ago after murdering his predecessor and the man's entire family. He has no code, no lines he won't cross. Children, elderly, police, anyone who gets in his way is a target. Why haven't you stopped him?" "I've been trying. We've been at war for 3 years now. But he's well protected, well funded, and absolutely ruthless. Every time I move against him, civilians get caught in the crossfire. So I've been trying to contain him instead. Keep him out of my territory. Protect the people I can protect. And now, you want me to do your dirty work. I want you to do what you came here to do. Take down a dangerous criminal. I'm just providing the intelligence." Maya picked at her food, her appetite fading. "If I do this, if I go after Huang, it doesn't make us allies. It doesn't mean I'm okay with what you do." "I know. And when Huang is gone, I'm still coming for you." Junho smiled. A real smile this time, and it transformed his face. "I'd expect nothing less, detective. You're insane. You know that, right? You're helping me with full knowledge that I'm going to try to arrest you." "Maybe. But I think it'll take you a while to build a case against me. Years, probably. And in that time, maybe you'll see that I'm not the monster you think I am. Or maybe I'll prove that you are. That's the gamble." They finished breakfast, and Junho walked her to the door. He handed her the USB drive, a burner phone, and a business card with only a phone number on it. "That's my direct line," he said. "If you need anything while going after Huang, backup intel resources, call me. I'm not calling you for backup. That would make me as corrupt as you. It would make you smart. Huang won't hesitate to kill you if he gets the chance. My people can keep you safe. I can keep myself safe." Junho's expression turned serious. "Can you? You walked into that warehouse alone last night. If I hadn't had my people grab you, Huang's would have. And they wouldn't have tied you to a bed and had a philosophical conversation. They would have tortured you for information and then killed you." The casual way he said it sent a chill down Maya's spine. How did you know I'd be there? I have people watching Huang's operations. They saw you surveilling the warehouse and called me. I made the decision to extract you before Huang's people noticed you. So you saved me. In a manner of speaking. Maya shook her head, overwhelmed again. This is so messed up. Yes, Junho agreed. It is, but it's reality. Welcome to my world, detective. She moved toward the elevator, then stopped. Junho, why me? Really? You said you've been watching me, that you know who I am. But why go to all this trouble? Why not just let me stumble around until I got myself killed or gave up? He was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face. Because when I watched you help that elderly woman with her groceries, you reminded me of my mother. When I saw you giving money to those homeless kids, you reminded me of my sister, who volunteers at a youth center. When I watched you sit with a victim for hours, just listening to her cry, you reminded me of why I started this in the first place. To protect people. I'm not like your family. No, but you're someone who could make a real difference if you stop fighting the wrong battles. And I thought, maybe if I could show you the complexity of this world, you'd be more effective, save more lives. Or maybe you're just manipulating me to remove your competition. Maybe it's both, Junho admitted. I'm not a good man, Detective Richardson. I've killed people. I've hurt people. I profit from crime. But I'm also not the worst man in this city. And I think you're smart enough to recognize that and act accordingly. Maya stepped into the elevator. As the doors began to close, she called out, Min Junho. He looked at her, eyebrows raised. If I find out you lied to me about any of this, if that USB drive is somehow a setup, if you're playing me, I will destroy you. I don't care how long it takes or what it cost me. I will take you down. I wouldn't expect anything less, he said, that small smile playing at his lips again. Good hunting, detective. The elevator doors closed, and Maya sagged against the wall, exhausted and confused, and angry at herself for reasons she couldn't quite articulate. The USB drive was legitimate. Maya spent 2 days verifying the information against her own intelligence, cross-referencing it with police databases, confirming locations. Everything checked out. Huang's entire operation was laid out in meticulous detail. More information than the police had gathered in years of investigation. She should have been thrilled. This was career-making information. But instead, she felt dirty, compromised. Because accepting this help meant accepting Junho's version of the world, where some criminals were better than others, where pragmatism trumped ideals. Her partner, Detective Kim Sang-woo, noticed her distraction during their morning briefing. You okay, Richardson? He asked in his careful English. You look tired. Just working on a lead, Maya replied, forcing a smile. I think I might have something on the Huang gang. Sang-woo's eyes widened. Really? What kind of lead? A source. Someone who wants to see Huang taken down. What kind of source? Maya hesitated. The kind we don't ask too many questions about. Sang-woo studied her face, then nodded slowly. Sometimes that's how it works. You trust this source? Did she? Maya thought about Junho, about the conviction in his voice when he talked about protecting people, about the pain in his eyes when he mentioned his father, about the way he'd been careful with the restraints, how he'd made sure she ate, how he'd let her go without demands or threats. Yeah, she said finally. I think I do. Over the next week, Maya built her case against Huang. She surveilled locations from the USB drive, documented shipments, identified key players. She brought Sang-woo in on it, and together they presented their findings to their captain. The captain was suspicious at first. The information was too good, too detailed. But when Maya explained, she had a confidential informant, someone inside Wang's rival organization. He reluctantly approved the operation. 2 weeks after her abduction, Maya led a raid on one of Wang's primary warehouses. They seized enough weapons to arm a small militia, arrested 15 gang members, and recovered documents that implicated Huang in everything from gun trafficking to human smuggling. It was a massive win. Maya's captain was thrilled. The Korean press covered it extensively. The American embassy called to congratulate her. She should have been celebrating. Instead, she found herself on her apartment balcony at midnight, staring at the business card Junho had given her, the burner phone sitting beside it. She told herself she was just going to thank him for the intel. That was professional courtesy. Nothing more. The phone rang 3 times before he answered. Detective Richardson. Junho's voice was warm, tinged with amusement. I saw the news. Congratulations. Don't congratulate me. I did my job. You did it very well. Huang is scrambling. You've cost him millions of dollars and dozens of his best people. Good. That's the point. Indeed. A pause. So why are you calling? Maya didn't have a good answer to that. I wanted you to know that this doesn't change anything. Between us, I mean. You're still on my list. I'm aware. But I appreciate the honesty. And I wanted to say... Maya trailed off, struggling with the words. You were right. About Huang. About choosing battles. I hate that you were right, but you were. That must have been difficult to admit. You have no idea. Junho laughed, a genuine sound that made something warm flicker in Maya's chest. You know, Detective, you continue to surprise me. How so? Most people in your position would have either ignored my information out of pride or taken full credit for the intelligence. You did neither. You used it effectively, but you're honest about where it came from and what it means. What does it mean? It means you're learning that the world is complicated, that sometimes doing the right thing means making compromises you don't like. I'm not compromising with you. Aren't you? You're talking to me right now. You used my information. You're beginning to see that I'm not purely your enemy. You're not my friend either, Maya countered. No, Junho agreed. I'm something else entirely, and I think that bothers you. He was right, and Maya hated it. He was getting under her skin, making her question things she'd always been certain about. Black and white were blurring into gray, and she didn't know how to feel about it. I should go, she said. Maya. It was the first time he'd used her first name, and it sent a shiver through her. Be careful. Huang will retaliate. He'll figure out eventually that I provided that information, and he may try to get to me through you. I can handle myself. I know you can. But promise me you'll be cautious. And if you need anything, protection, backup, just someone to talk to, call me. Why do you care? Silence on the line. Long enough that Maya thought he might have hung up. Then, quietly, because I've been alone in this world for a long time, fighting battles by myself, making impossible choices with no one to talk to about them. And meeting you, talking to you, it reminded me what it's like to connect with someone who understands. I don't understand you. You understand better than you think. We're both trying to make the world better, detective. We just have different methods. Your methods are illegal and sometimes ineffective and cruel, I know, but they're what I have. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the conversation. This is a bad idea. Talking to you, working with you, even indirectly. I should arrest you right now. You can't. You have no evidence. And I don't think you want to. Don't tell me what I want. Then tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you're going to hang up this phone and never call me again. Tell me you're going to pretend I don't exist and go back to your simple worldview where I'm just a villain to be defeated. Maya opened her mouth to do exactly that. The words wouldn't come. That's what I thought, Junho said softly. Good night, detective. Sleep well and be safe. He hung up before she could respond. Maya stood on her balcony for another hour, staring at the Seoul skyline, wondering what the hell she was doing and why she couldn't make herself hate him the way she should. 3 weeks passed. Maya threw herself into building the case against Huang, using Junho's information to track down more leads, arrest more gang members, seize more contraband. Each success felt hollow, like she was winning battles in someone else's war. She didn't call Junho again, but she thought about him. Constantly. The way his eyes had softened when he talked about his father. The careful way he'd untied her. The respect in his voice when he called her detective. The loneliness in his admission that she reminded him what connection felt like. It was absurd. He was a criminal. She was a cop. There was no universe where this made sense. But the universe had never seemed particularly interested in making sense. The attack came on a Thursday night. Maya was leaving the precinct late, exhausted from another 12-hour day. She didn't see them until they were on her. 3 men with masks, moving fast and efficient. She fought, using every bit of training she had. Got one of them in the knee, another in the throat. But they were professionals, and there were 3 of them. She felt the needle pierce her neck, felt the now familiar fog of unconsciousness dragging her down. Her last coherent thought was that Junho had been right. Wang was retaliating. She woke up in a concrete room that smelled of mildew and blood. Her head throbbed. They'd used a different drug this time, something cruder and more painful. Her hands were zip-tied behind her back, secured to a pipe on the wall. A man sat in front of her, older, with a scar across his throat and dead eyes. Wang Taimin, she recognized him from his file photos. Detective Richardson, he said in Korean, which she understood enough of to follow. You've been causing me problems. Maya spat blood. She'd bitten her tongue during the abduction. Good. Huang laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Brave. I respect that. But bravery won't save you. You're going to tell me who your source is. Who provided the information for your raids? I don't know what you're talking about. One of Huang's men hit her, hard across the face. Pain exploded in her cheek, stars dancing in her vision. Don't lie to me, Huang said pleasantly. I know you had inside information, too detailed to be coincidence. So someone in my organization talked. Or more likely, someone in a rival organization wanted to weaken me. I can think of only one person with the resources and motivation to provide that kind of intel. I don't know what. Another hit, this one to her ribs. Maya gasped, struggling to breathe. Min Junho, Huang said, watching her face carefully. It was him, wasn't it? He gave you everything, used you as his weapon against me. Maya said nothing, which was apparently answer enough. Interesting, Huang mused. The great Min Junho, hiding behind a police detective. How cowardly, but also clever. I can't retaliate against you too openly without bringing more police attention. So, I'll have to be creative. He stood pulling out a knife. I'm going to hurt you, detective. Quite a lot. And then I'm going to let you go, broken and traumatized, as a message to Min Junho that this is what happens when you interfere with my business. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. She'd been in dangerous situations before, but this was different. Huang's eyes were empty, devoid of humanity. He would do exactly what he promised, and he would enjoy it. The door exploded inward. Men in black tactical gear flooded the room, moving with military precision. Gunfire erupted, short controlled bursts. Huang's men went down before they could react. Huang himself dove for cover, but one of the tactical team caught him with a shot to the leg. And then Junho was there, striding through the chaos like it didn't touch him. He wore all black, a gun in his hand, his face a mask of controlled fury. You, he said to Huang in Korean, his voice deadly quiet. You touched what's mine. She's not yours. Huang spat, clutching his bleeding leg. She's a cop. Junho shot him in the other leg. Huang screamed, collapsing. Junho's men secured the area quickly, efficiently, like they'd done this 1,000 times. One of them cut Maya's zip ties, catching her as she nearly collapsed. Junho knelt in front of her, his hands surprisingly gentle as he examined her injuries. Are you okay? Did they... I'm fine, Maya gasped, though her ribs screamed in protest. How did you... I've had people watching you since the raid started. I knew Huang would retaliate. When they grabbed you, my team followed. His eyes scanned her face, taking in the bruises, the blood. Something murderous flickered in his expression. He stood, walking back to Huang. He pointed his gun at the older man's head. No, Maya said, her voice cracking. Don't. Junho paused, looking back at her. He would have killed you, after torturing you. I know, but if you kill him, you're no better than he is. I've never claimed to be better. But you could be. You could choose differently. They stared at each other across the bloody room. Maya saw the struggle in Junho's eyes, the war between what he wanted and what she was asking him to do. Finally, he lowered the gun. Call the police, he said to one of his men. Anonymous tip. They'll find Huang here, wounded and vulnerable, with all the evidence they need to put him away for life. Boss, one of his men protested. Do it, Junho ordered. Then to Maya, we need to go, now, before the police arrive, and you have to explain why I'm here. Maya wanted to argue, but her body was screaming in pain and her mind was foggy. She let Junho support her weight as they moved out of the building. Some kind of abandoned factory in an industrial area. There was a car waiting, sleek and black, with tinted windows. Junho helped her into the back seat with surprising gentleness, then slid in beside her. Hospital? His driver asked in Korean. No, Maya said quickly. No hospitals. They'll ask questions I can't answer. My home, then, Junho said. I have a doctor on staff. Maya wanted to protest, but didn't have the energy. She leaned back against the leather seat, trying to breathe through the pain in her ribs. Junho's hand found hers in the darkness, his fingers intertwining with hers. You're safe now, he said softly. I promise. You came for me, Maya whispered. Of course I did. Why? Junho was quiet for a long moment. Because the thought of him hurting you made me want to burn the entire city down. Because in a few short weeks, you've become important to me. Because He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. Maya squeezed his hand, encouraging him. Because I care about you, he finished quietly. More than I should. More than is wise. Junho, I know. You're a cop. I'm a criminal. It's impossible. But that doesn't change how I feel. Maya closed her eyes, feeling tears leak from the corners. From pain, from fear, from the overwhelming confusion of this moment. I don't know what to do with this, she admitted. You don't have to do anything. Just let me take care of you tonight. Let me make sure you're safe. And tomorrow, you can go back to being the dedicated detective who wants to arrest me. They drove through the Seoul night in silence, hands clasped, both knowing that something fundamental had shifted between them, but neither ready to name it. Junho's doctor was a woman in her 50s who asked no questions and worked with efficient competence. 2 cracked ribs, multiple contusions, a mild concussion. She gave Maya painkillers, told her to rest, and left. Junho showed her to a guest room. Not the bedroom she'd woken up in that first night, but something more modest. Comfortable without being ostentatious. I'll be right outside if you need anything, he said from the doorway. Stay, Maya said before she could think better of it. Junho's expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Maya, not like that. Just, I don't want to be alone right now. And you said you care about me. So stay. Talk to me. Help me make sense of whatever this is. He nodded slowly, entering the room and sitting in the chair by the bed. Maya shifted carefully, her ribs protesting, until she was comfortable against the pillows. Tell me about your family, she said. Your mother and sister. Are they safe? Yes. They live in Busan now, far from Seoul and my business. They don't know the extent of what I do. My mother thinks I run legitimate import-export companies. My sister knows more, but pretends not to. Do you see them often? Not as often as I'd like. It's dangerous for them to be associated with me. But I call my mother every Sunday, and I make sure they have everything they need. You're a good son? Junho smiled sadly. I'm a son who kills people for a living. I'm not sure that qualifies as good. You protect your family. You provide for them. Those are good things. Even if the money comes from crime? Maya sighed. I don't know anymore. A month ago, I would have said yes, absolutely. But now, I don't know. I've changed your worldview. You've complicated it. I'm not sure that's the same thing. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Maya's pain medication was kicking in, making everything soft and distant. Junho, she said sleepily, why did you really bring me here that first night? The real reason. He was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because I'd been watching you for weeks, admiring your dedication and your compassion, and I wanted to talk to you. Just talk. Have a real conversation with someone who saw the world differently than I do. Someone who challenged me. And yes, I wanted you to stop interfering with my business, but mostly, I just wanted to know you. That's insane. I know. But when you spend your life surrounded by criminals and sycophants, someone like you, someone genuine and principled and brave, you become magnetic. I couldn't stop thinking about you. Maya's heart hammered despite the pain medication. I thought about you too. After that night, couldn't stop. Maya, I know it's impossible, she continued, her words slightly slurred from the medication. I know we're on opposite sides. I know I should hate you. But I don't. I don't understand you, and I don't agree with your choices, but I don't hate you. What do you feel? She considered the question, her tired mind struggling for honesty. Confused, conflicted, drawn to you despite every logical reason not to be. Grateful that you saved me tonight. Angry that you made me compromise my principles. Interested in who you are beneath the crime boss exterior. Scared of what all of this means. Junho moved from the chair to sit on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle her injuries. He took her hand again, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. I feel the same, he admitted. All of it, the confusion, the conflict, the pull toward you that makes no sense. You terrify me, Maya Richardson, because you make me want to be better. And I don't know if I can be. You could try. Could I? What does that look like? I quit my organization, walk away from everything I've built. The power vacuum would be filled by someone worse. People who depend on me for protection would be vulnerable, and I'd probably be dead within a month. Then what? We just acknowledge this thing between us and do nothing about it? I don't know. I don't have answers. I've spent 10 years building an empire, making impossible choices, becoming someone I barely recognize. And then you showed up and made me question everything. Maya squeezed his hand. Good. You should question everything. Maybe that's the first step to being better. And you? Will you question everything too? Question whether the law is always right, whether the system you serve is truly just. I already am, Maya admitted. You made me question it that first night, and I hate you a little bit for that. Only a little? Maybe more than a little. Junho laughed softly, and the sound warmed something in Maya's chest. They sat like that for a long time, hands clasped, both processing what this meant. Finally, Maya's eyes grew too heavy to keep open. Stay, she murmured again. Please, I will, Junho promised. Sleep, Maya. I'll keep you safe. She drifted off with his hand in hers, feeling safer than she had any right to feel in a criminal's home, protected by a man she was supposed to be arresting. Maya woke late the next morning to find Junho asleep in the chair, his hand still holding hers, his body clearly uncomfortable in the position. His face relaxed in sleep, looked younger, less dangerous, almost peaceful. She studied him in the morning light. The sharp angles of his face, the scar on his temple, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead. He was beautiful in a severe way. All controlled power and hidden depths. As if sensing her gaze, his eyes opened. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Something passing between them that didn't need words. How do you feel? He asked finally. Like I got beaten by gangsters, but alive, thanks to you. Thanks to my informants, and your stubbornness in refusing to have police protection. I didn't think I needed it. You should have listened to me. I'm not used to taking advice from criminals. Maybe you should start. Junho stood stretching. I'll have breakfast prepared. The doctor said you should eat. Junho. Maya caught his wrist. What happens now? With us, I mean. We can't just pretend last night didn't happen. He sat back down, his expression serious. No, we can't. But I don't know what the alternative is. We're on opposite sides of the law. Any relationship between us would be complicated at best, destructive at worst. Relationship. Maya's heart skipped. Is that what you want? I want you, Junho said simply. But wanting something doesn't make it possible or right. You have your career, your principles. I have my organization, my responsibilities. We can't just walk away from those things. No, but maybe we can find a middle ground. Keep talking, keep challenging each other, see where it goes. That's dangerous, for both of us. I know, but I think it might be worth it. Junho leaned forward, his hand cupping her cheek with surprising gentleness. You are remarkable, Detective Richardson. Brave and stubborn, and impossibly principled, and I... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Say it, Maya whispered. I think I'm falling in love with you, which is the most foolish thing I've ever admitted. Maya's breath caught. She should push him away. Should arrest him right now. Should do any of the dozens of logical, responsible things a cop should do in this situation. Instead, she leaned into his touch. I think I'm falling too, which is equally foolish. What do we do? I don't know. Take it one day at a time? Keep being honest with each other, even when it's hard? And when our responsibilities conflict? We deal with it, together. Junho smiled, a real, unguarded expression that transformed his entire face. Together, I like the sound of that. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met in a kiss that was soft and careful, mindful of her injuries but full of promise. It lasted only a moment before Junho pulled back, his forehead resting against hers. This is insane, he murmured. Completely, Maya agreed. Worth it, though. We'll see. They stayed like that for a long moment, foreheads touching, breathing the same air, both knowing they were crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Finally, Junho pulled back. Breakfast, doctor's orders, and then we need to talk about Huang. The police will have him now, thanks to the anonymous tip. You'll need to coordinate the arrest, make sure he doesn't slip away. All business just like that? We have to be. The world doesn't stop because we've discovered inconvenient feelings for each other. Maya laughed despite the pain it caused. Inconvenient, that's one word for it. The next few weeks were a delicate dance. Maya coordinated Huang's arrest, building an airtight case that would put him away for decades. The Seoul police were thrilled with the bust. Maya's captain talked about commendations. The American embassy wanted to hold a press conference. Through it all, Maya met with Junho in secret. Late-night conversations in neutral locations. Careful phone calls from burner phones. Stolen moments where they could just be two people drawn to each other, without the weight of their roles. They talked about everything. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Junho told her about growing up in his father's restaurant, learning to cook before he learned to fight. Maya shared stories about her father, about watching him leave for work every day, knowing he might not come back. They debated morality and justice, crime and punishment, often disagreeing, but always respectful. Junho challenged her assumptions about the police and the justice system. Maya challenged his justifications for his criminal activities, and slowly, impossibly, they fell deeper. It was Sang-woo who noticed first. You're different, he said one day, during a stakeout. Happier, but also distracted. Are you seeing someone? Maya's heart hammered. Why would you think that? You smile at your phone. You leave the precinct early sometimes. You have this look. He gestured vaguely at her face. Like you have a secret. I'm not seeing anyone, Maya lied, and hated herself for it. Sang-woo studied her for a long moment. Be careful, Richardson. Seoul can be complicated for foreigners. especially cops. I'm always careful. She wasn't, though. Every meeting with Junho was a risk. Every phone call was potential evidence. Every stolen kiss in dark corners was a betrayal of her badge. But she couldn't stop. 3 months after her abduction, Junho took her to his mother's restaurant in Busan. They drove down together on a Sunday, and for a few hours, they pretended to be normal. Just two people on a date, enjoying good food and each other's company. Junho's mother was a small, fierce woman who immediately pulled Maya into a hug. "You're the American detective," she said in careful English. "Junho talks about you." "He does?" Maya glanced at Junho, who had the grace to look embarrassed. "He says you're smart and brave. He doesn't bring women to meet me. You must be special." Over lunch, the kimchi jjigae Junho had mentioned, which was indeed the best Maya had ever tasted. His mother told stories about Junho as a child, how he'd been serious even as a boy, always trying to protect his younger sister, how he cried for days when his father died, how he changed after, becoming harder, more distant. "But with you," she said, looking at Maya with knowing eyes, "he smiles again, like he used to." Maya felt tears prick her eyes, because this woman didn't know what her son had become. Didn't know about the violence, the crime, the blood on his hands. She just saw the boy he'd been, and the man he was trying to be. On the drive back to Seoul, Junho was quiet. "Thank you," he said finally. "For what?" "For being kind to my mother, for not judging her for being connected to me. She loves you. That's not something to judge. She doesn't know what I am. She knows you're her son. That's enough for her." Junho pulled the car over suddenly into an empty parking lot overlooking the ocean. He turned to Maya, his expression intense. "I love you," he said, completely, impossibly, dangerously. "I love you." Maya's breath caught. "Junho, I know all the reasons this is wrong. I know I'm not good for you, that I'll only complicate your life, that we have no future. But I love you anyway, and I needed you to know." Maya unbuckled her seatbelt, leaning across the console to cup his face in her hands. "I love you too, despite every logical reason not to, despite knowing this is probably going to end in disaster. I love you." They kissed with the ocean as their witness, passionate and desperate and full of all the things they couldn't say. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Junho rested his forehead against hers. "What do we do now?" he asked. "We figure it out. Together." "Together," Junho echoed, and Maya heard the promise in his voice. They drove back to Seoul as the sun set, hands clasped over the console, both knowing they'd crossed a point of no return. Whatever came next, investigation, scandal, heartbreak, they would face it together. Because sometimes love didn't make sense. Sometimes it was complicated and dangerous and absolutely impossible. Sometimes it bloomed in the space between right and wrong, between law and crime, between a detective and a mafia boss. Sometimes love was simply choosing someone despite every reason not to, and trusting that choice to lead somewhere worth going. As they entered Seoul's city limits, Maya's phone rang. It was her captain. "Richardson, we have a situation. New intelligence suggests the Min organization is planning something big. I'm assigning you as lead investigator." Maya's eyes met Junho's across the car. He'd heard enough to understand. "Understood, sir," she said, her voice steady. "I'll start immediately." She hung up, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. "So it begins," Junho said quietly. So it begins, Maya agreed. They drove into the neon lit city, two people in love caught on opposite sides of an impossible divide, neither knowing how their story would end, but both committed to seeing it through together.